That's all it comes down to is why pay you? I can pay 15 other people that are in line at this interview. And you got to tell them why you're the one who's going to be the Tylenol that they're paying. You're the one who's going to make their life easier. And so if you can convey that least amount of verbiage possible, you're golden.
In today's podcast, we will be interviewing Matt Warzel regarding challenges job seekers are facing in today's economy. Matthew is a career coach who manages CJW Careers. Matthew also has been featured in the Forbes and Money Magazine with many other outlets. He is an expert in careers and an expert in resume writing. Matt,
thank you for having me on. I really appreciate your time today. Hopefully we'll get some good takeaways for the audience.
Absolutely. Well, let's start with what inspired you to be a career coach.
Actually, out of necessity, really. I was a recruiter for quite some time, and then I had been a victim of a downsizing, at which that point I transitioned into a small business owner type of niche, in terms of a career coaching, resume writing micro firm. So really didn't even think it was going to be a thing. It was kind of like, hey, maybe I'll do this freelance until I figure out the new me. And once I started kind of getting a little traction and kind of getting a little itch for entrepreneurship, I really kind of thrusted myself into the world. So it literally was just, honestly, I probably wouldn't even known career coaches existed when I was recruiting because I never really bothered to look. But, all of a sudden I was in this kind of, function. And so that's where I started taking it real serious. This was years ago now at this point, but over 10 years ago. But that's where I started really trying to figure out, okay, how can I maximize what I can offer in terms of value for my clients? I better start researching, figuring things out, and making my own opinions of things I'm reading to kind of then formulate what I consider, some good advice for my clients that's, pragmatic. I lean on trying to be very pragmatic with the world of hiring because it is super wonky.
Yeah. I know today's market is kind of interesting in the job market with so many tech companies laying off people. What are your intake on that?
It's expected, right? Because a lot of the kind of ballooning of operations that these tech companies have been doing. It was fun having stocks of these tech companies for years, right? Then all of a sudden it starts kind of crashing and kind of went back to earth. So it's almost like we probably should have foresaw it. And I'm not one of understanding the economics of a lot of things. I try to piece things together, but again, that's some super high level thinking with trying to figure out the data. But what I can gather is essentially, when it comes to laying off, what I can do is try to help these people out that aren't getting transition support. And so what I can make of it is there's going to be more coming, regardless of industry, right? As life goes on, there's always going to be highs and lows. And it just happened to be the techs are right now. Mm-hmm. They're on the lows. So, but a lot of good talent out there. I know a lot of people are worried. They shouldn't be. It's just you're going to have to do a little bit more nitty-gritty job hunting than you used to. We do have a platform, that internet, that helps. It used to be, physically going into offices and handing them papers, right? So at least you're not having to get in your car. That's an advantage. But then no one else is going in their car either, right? So now we're all having to. Yeah, so you just got to stand out a little bit more. So I would say to those people affected, keep your head up, keep positive, but get to work and stick to a calendar, and you'll get to your new you.
So what platforms should people be looking into getting
Well, we know LinkedIn, right? Number one. Until someone makes a new one.
Correct.
It's the necessary evil. I love LinkedIn, but I could hate it some days too. But I would say LinkedIn is first and foremost because most hiring managers, most recruiters are on there, whether they're active or not. Well, recruiters are probably pretty active, but hiring managers sometimes might not be active, but they at least set them up for whatever reason. And what you want to do is essentially not just go on there and look for jobs. When I say LinkedIn, I mean get on there, find some groups, and interact with people, right? It sucks, some of this stuff. Mm-hmm. It's long and hard and arduous, but it's the things that competitors are doing. They're striking up conversations with people, with decision makers, with recruiters, and they're not just asking them for a job. They're trying to give them value, trying to build a little relationship, even if it's just a business relationship on LinkedIn. Those exist. I have some out there, and it's very much a exchange of value kind of thing. So give them some articles of tips you think they'd be interested in. And by them, I mean, hiring managers, recruiters, and get on their radar and stick to it. And then maybe in a few months, you can ask them finally to look at a resume. So those are the things that I teach my clients, though. Right now I have like probably over 30 strategies, and I collect these. I don't invent them. A lot of these are just you read stuff and collect them. And so I got tons of strategies of like what you can do other than just spraying and praying your resume on LinkedIn's job board. What else you can do on that platform that'll really plant all seeds, turn over all stones on a job hunt.
Sure. With resume writing, that's an area that I struggle with resume writing. How should people go about that? Because I think that's probably like one of the biggest things. You want to get all that information within the first page. Can be very challenging.
So, and resumes obviously is the number one necessary evil with job hunting. You get a lot of, candidates that even if they're not good at job hunting, interviewing, whatever it is, the first thing they think of is I got to get a resume to get this thing going. So, I will first say that take it serious because they're not going anywhere, and take your LinkedIn serious because some recruiters and hiring managers want to see that as your digital resume versus the regular PDF Word. So first and foremost, make sure they're both looking the same and you take it very serious because you don't know where they're vetting from, right? Sourcing and vetting the candidates from. When it comes to physically writing, and I'll keep it kind of a broad stroke at first, think less is more and the less being super impactful. I put my content in 3 buckets when I write, and if it doesn't go in these 3 buckets, if whatever you're trying to say doesn't fall in these 3 buckets, get it off. I don't care if it's something you were super proud of, that from 15 years ago. If it's not in these 3 buckets, take it off. So the bucket 1 is relatability and transferability, right? So look at the job and reverse engineer from there, and get things from that job description that you've done onto the resume without fibbing. Because we don't fib. That's rule number 1, but get those things on there, and don't just copy and paste the job description or sets of words. Make them your own. Put an onus on it. If you have to have the full project management life cycle, talk about how you've not only managed the full project management life cycle. Talk about that stuff, but give them some little scenarios and little details about your onus, your personal impacts with that kind of stuff. Because now it's not robotic, but it also still relates and resonates because it's stuff you'll be doing in that role, but also gives you a chance to talk about it further during the interview. I always say you give the resume, it's the full meal cooked. Very efficient, good, best product you could have put out. And then the interviews, we talk about the ingredients. Because you don't want to confuse the reader or make it super long or fill in all these details of each project. No one has time, and most of the time you're dealing with people that aren't really in your world, that are recruiting you, right? They're marketing majors from school. Or you have robots now that vet, and they're just looking for buzzwords and stuff they can parse. So you want to make sure that, again, you present to them a very action result statements and keep it simple. I did this, and here was the impact. And then the interviews where, again, you can use as a springboard to talk about more and fill in details. So that's the first bucket, relatability. Second bucket, operational. Give me some impact statements that relate to profits, productivity, efficiency. Give me some numbers. I want scope. It'll help me get to the point of the impact without having to use too much words. But also, hiring managers like to see that. Breaks up monotony of letters, and they show that you care about money and time and that kind of stuff. And then third bucket's anything unique. So if you have speeches, awards, high-profile clients, things like that. But when it comes down to it, if you have a certification, if you have accomplishment, a skill that is either dated or not relevant to what you're trying to do, get rid of it. Resumes are no longer career snapshots; they're sales sheets, and you're trying to sell yourself as a whatever profession you're in, as someone that will make their life easier, someone that offers value, and someone that should get paid an X amount of dollars every couple of weeks to do something, right? Because that's all it comes down to is why pay you? I can pay 15 other people that are in line at this interview, and you got to tell them why you're the one who's going to be the Tylenol to their pain. You're the one who's going to make their life easier, and so if you can convey that least amount of verbiage possible, you're golden.
Now, we'll change it up a little bit. How important is college degree to getting landing in a job nowadays? I remember like 5 years ago, somebody like me who doesn't have a 4-year degree, it was very challenging, but I was able to work my way up within the company. And is a 4-year degree just as relevant now than it was like
it's
5-10 years ago?
That is an ongoing conversation. It's very much So would they say a lot? They're like even saying a lot more kids are going to college though these days, and you're like, huh? It feels like no one's going to school anymore. Like the pandemic kind of turned. So it's like I'm with you where it's such a conundrum. I don't think school is necessary to do anything. It helps. It can always help to educate yourself more, but you can go on Google and do searches for years and figure out exactly what you're trying to do, and then become an expert in that versus going to school and learning about philosophy, which or other stuff that you just don't care about. And it's just meant to get your brain to think other level, other spots working and trying to conceptualize and all this kind of stuff. So I can't, again, I went to school. Whether my son goes to college or not, my goal is to have him kind of be a business professional, hopefully one day like me, and I can kind of just get him going, right? And not even, get into real estate at 18. What the heck? And let's go. Because I know people like that, and I'm like, yeah. So it's not like the old days, like when I was going to school, where you knew you had to go to college. I would say just everyone's situation is different. If you feel like it'd be advantageous for you in your situation in terms of the monetary cost versus what you're going to get, sure, it could help. I mean, certain professions mandate it though, right? Certain professions you have to physically. You want to be a mechanical engineer working on AutoCAD. Most of the time, you got to go get specific training for that. That's right. So,
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, like a doctor. If you want to be a doctor,
There's
you better
no
have a degree, right?
in that. But if you're going to go be in construction management or some of this other stuff, I mean, like if you could figure out a way to learn what these people learn in school, and then again, but like being an actor, I don't need a 4-day degree to be an actor. So yeah, but I won't knock college. I just say I don't think the pressures of having to do it were there like when we were younger automatically, right? I feel like now it's like less pressure from even us parents are kind of like, you should probably go to college, but wait a minute, all these kids are millionaires now. Like, I don't know, maybe you don't need to go. Just get on TikTok.
Yeah. All right. So during the pandemic, we had people kind of wrestle with the employers with negotiating. It's like, whether you're gonna pay me or I'm out. People would go to their bosses and say that, hey, whether you're gonna give me this $5,000-$10,000 raise or I'm gonna go work for the competitor. This actually was happening to some of our workers where they were constantly like trying to squeeze us. And I know right now, talking to a lot of business owners, that's kind of changed. Do the job seekers, do they still have the opportunity to negotiate reasonable pay in the current market?
I think anytime you can, you should. Now, again, it's polite kind of, or mindful of them if it's a time where they're laying off a bunch of people and maybe not the best time. So kind of be logical in when you should do it, because the when is important. But I think it's always a good time to negotiate if you feel like it's your turn and you feel like, hey, I have not, I've been skipping performance reviews because of whatever, because of this market we're trying to do, or whatever the situation was. If you feel like it's your turn, then be mindful, be very much, how do I say, like transparent in how you're trying to approach that negotiation, and then make sure you got your brag book ready. So then you really got to sell yourself and know why you want that $5,000 more. Now, again, like you said, though, again, when it comes to the timing, that is just, it's a case by case. Some industries, some companies, whatever it is. But if you feel like there's not much shift happening with staffing and you're kind of like just a regular kind of bumping along the road and your business is going fine and, there's not too much terrible cuts going on, and you might see some colleagues getting promoted or boosted in pay, then maybe, just go for it, right? But be mindful, though, because, again, that is one of those things that even I learned early on when I was educating myself on being a good coach. It even said, when telling your clients, hey, don't ask for a raise if they're just cut, 2 departments. It just makes sense, right? I mean, come on.
Literally. What are some challenges the job seekers are facing
Availability.
right now?
I feel like a lot of times they're trying to figure out what, if there's a job and if it's available. And I feel like, and this goes with the spraying and praying thing, like job boards. They go by job boards if there's a job open for them. They don't realize that companies will create jobs for them if they find the right person they're talking to. And then they don't realize there's a lot of stuff that's not advertised that are being, people are being hired. They always say the job board's like the 4th step, right? Where I went through the ringer internally and who knows who and all this kind of stuff. And then it gets to the job board. So I think the biggest thing is people tend to think if I just apply to some jobs, life will get me where I need to get. The universe will take care of me. And that's not it. I think everything's for a reason, but to an extent. You got to put yourself in those situations where then the reason will pop off for you. So I would say that for job seekers is do more than just putting your resume on Indeed and just applying to some jobs every day. Do some things that are uncomfortable, networking, cold messaging, right? Tapping recruiters and making sure they're well aware of why you have value for their clients, and then sticking to it. Because that's the hardest part is a lot of people calendar and then they'll just drop stuff or not stick to it. It's like a weight loss plan, that kind of stuff. So it's just the same thing. It's your career, right? So stick to it. I mean, this stuff should be taken pretty serious. It's your livelihood. So you would think people would be energetic and really enthusiastic about taking on the day of getting work, but they look at it more as daunting and like a necessary evil that they have to do. And then they kind of give them they kind of give that half go effort. Or as quick way as they can get to the bar after and get me out of this job hunting thing today so I can go meet my buddies. Whereas, it should be almost treated like a startup. You're on it all day and at night, and you're just doing everything you possibly can to get in the next position or whatever you're trying to accomplish, that next use. So, yeah, I would say that's the biggest problem, is just making yourself available. Sure. And then finding the roles that are out there that you should you aspire to.
At MJW Careers, what is your ideal clientele look like? Are they like younger generation, older, people who are just like had midlife crisis that just want to time to go into a new business?
Question. So my ideal are folks that are willing to invest in themselves, because my prices are a little higher. They used to not be, but then I kind of saw, well, first off, just running a business is more expensive, but second, just the value and what my results look like for my clients. And they're really doing well, which is great. So I'm starting to see more and more about why my system works really well. And so my ideal client is someone that is willing to invest in himself and willing to do the work to get to that job within a few months versus a whole year of job hunting or whatever it is. So making that transition easy. In terms of the personality, I love the folks that are trying to find their why and kind of going through that exercise of, hey, what is something you want to do, but that's also pragmatic, again, that someone's going to pay you to do. And then what are some of the things that you might aspire to do that might require some skilling and education in the interim, right? So I love putting together career paths, right? The pathing. That kind of stuff's fun. But then also, I'm a word nerd, so I dig resume writing. So I'm all over. I love the industry I'm in, though, because it kind of offers all these different facets. But as far as ideal client, I would just go with someone who's ready to roll. I don't like the people that are tire kickers. I don't like them. I still help them, but I prefer that the person is at least matching my enthusiasm to help them versus them feeling like it's hey, this guy's got to get me to do everything because I don't feel like job hunting. So this guy better tell me, better really make me do stuff. It's well, you got to put a little effort in too.
Let's get to the last part. How is ChatGPT and AI affecting the
it's interesting.
the job market?
I think it's too early to tell. I think it's something that, and not only that, by the time we figure out this first, we'll call it first phase of ChatGPT, then by the time we figure it out, the second, where ChatGPT 4 is already on the cusp, and then 5, 6. So it's I think we're going to be playing catch up as far as what impacts. I would say, though, first and foremost, until it's so sophisticated that it can customize your resume to speak about you, we're ways off at having a human removed. Because when I write resumes, I don't just, they got this software now that'll cookie cutter. You're a production supervisor in the automotive industry. Okay, well, cookie cutter all these statements, right? I could do that off a job description. I go cookie cut the heck out of a resume and it takes me 5 minutes just looking at 4 job descriptions, right? So that's not the thing. It's every candidate I get, every client I get is a different Lego set. Sure, some blocks are the same color, same size, but everyone's built differently. And so that's how, until AI can figure that out, I don't see me as a resume writer going far just yet. Now, in terms of career and job hunting, I really think it's a great tool for research. I love especially telling it to tell me more. They give me 5, 10 different examples, and I'm keep going, right? So I love seeing what it can come up with. I use it to pair up with some of my content writing to help fill in some paragraph stuff that I'm trying to struggle to maybe connect together. But as far as for job hunting, use it to, again, try to figure out what other stones you can turn over and what other seeds you can plant. It's just like my LinkedIn stuff. Strategies galore, right? So just learn more strategies off it. Ask it some stuff about what things they can do to job hunt that day outside of just posting on the job board, right? Or checking the job board. And it should give you some advice. So I would kind of use it to that point. I mean, again, stuff that we would say as career coaches. But until you, like for me as a career coach, I like that I'm a part-time motivator. I like that I'm a part-time therapist. I'm a part-time, troubleshooter, like a part-time strategist, like all this different stuff with my clients that they're not going to get with the AI just yet. Again, maybe down the road, but just for now, they need a human to go, what am I doing wrong, Matt? What should I be doing right, et cetera? And, only so much advice. Yeah, but I mean, I still think it's cool, though. I mean, I'm not one to knock it.
Yeah. So where do you think the job market is going to go within the next couple of years?
Who knows, man? This world we're in, everything's upside down. Let's just say, let's hope it's freaking doing really well, and everyone's getting, plump again, and we're all just like, digging the economy. And but yeah, I think it's cyclical. So let's get through this little kind of period of inflation, quasi, all this kind of recession inflation that's been touch and go. Let's just get through all this, and let's get some freaking chips back in the U.S. so we can start making things again. And I think we'll be all right. Again, we're going to have a booming. It's going to be roaring. It's just a matter of when, right? Because it's just so cyclical. So the next few years, I'd say we'll probably be fine by then. Just kind of guesstimating based off historical kind of years, chunks of years that are lulls versus highs. But as far as, man, I don't know how economists and these people predict stuff with just the silliness of technology and just what we're trying to keep up on, and things are moving so much faster. So it's hard to predict next month and 2 months from now, right? So thank God that's not part of my full-time job. I try to keep up with some knowledge to give it to my clients, but I'm not the economist. So if they want to get more detailed reports, they're going to have to go find that somewhere.
How about right now? What do you think?
So
about
right now it's
now?
interesting. There's a lot of jobs, and the unemployment rate's not that high, but there's a lot of people looking for work, and so it's very much like there's availability, but people aren't like connecting the dots or aren't. I don't know. It's like the Great Resignation just took some people away, and now they're trying to come back, but it's like how many of them? So I think the pandemic again disrupted us so much that. We are still living in some of the effects, and that mainly being like, why are there so many openings, but yet, a lot of people are still looking for work. It's like, it's kind of a double, catch-22 kind of thing. I will say this, though. My clients are getting hired, which is good. So there clearly are availabilities out there that they're able to kind of throw their hat in the ring for. So I know for a fact that if you kind of go out there and you really hit it hard, your job hunt, I know it's a loose term, but by that I mean doing a lot of things and trying different strategies out, you'll find your way. There are opportunities that are bound.
Okay. So I read an article earlier last week about how companies are starting to get nicer offices so they can bring people back in working in an office building.
Okay.
Instead of working from home. Are you seeing that happen? Where companies are making certain adjustments to get people back into the office building rather than working
so I'm not an expert in kind of controlling this news cycle. As far as the work from home, I have not been monitoring as much. But the things I'm picking up in my filters are essentially that companies don't want to do work from home anymore. Right? We're going back to the old ways. Remember how during the pandemic we invested in DE&I. And we had these CHROs doing above and beyond to kind of keep people happy and make them feel like a team. And now we're back to, numbers game, which we knew was going to happen. It's U.S. companies. These people don't care. And maybe not all of them, but most companies are back to the same old business. What's that include? Getting people back on site, right? So I think we're only starting that trend, but it's only going to get worse where it's going to get to the point where they're literally making rules in place for some of these companies of saying, hey, you can only work from home once, twice a week because you were getting, this 4 or 5 times is too much and whatever. And I think in some companies they're going to say, don't come back on site. We're way more efficient. We're way more cost friendly if you stay home. So I think it opened the eyes of all companies in seeing how they're going to best position what they can do. And I think it just comes down to a money game at that point, an efficiency game and that kind of stuff. I don't think companies, maybe some, but I don't think they're going to be like, you got to come work in the office just for the sake of it. I think they probably see hey, it's a position that requires a lot of teamwork, et cetera, whatever the boxes are, right? So they're going to make it kind of make it a reality again of getting back into the seats. But it's funny that you said that, though. I never saw that article yet where they're investing in the niceness of offices.
Yeah, literally, apparently like they're leaving their smaller offices and buying or leasing out nicer offices to attract talent or attract people from coming back into the workforce. So, and for me is that I actually think that people being in office, I have a feeling that people are more productive than working at home. For me, it's almost impossible to work from home.
Yeah,
I have
congrats.
a 1.5-year-old. Thank you, but you can't work at home. And I don't know how people do it, like with having a young baby, or how to be productive. For me, it was very hard.
It's definitely
very
case by
challenging.
case. I'm with you. I mean, like for me, I've been working at home so long that, it's easy for me to block out, but I can see, like even my father-in-law is amazed that I can block out things when I'm working at his house and there's all this chaos in the background. I'm like, so I'm groomed and like have been able to do this. So for me, it's easy, but I can see like something like you, it's like where, yeah, if you have these circumstances, or you might have been someone who just couldn't work from home and then the circumstances get worse because there's more chaos from a kiddo or dogs and that stuff. So it's even worse for these people, right? So it's all just, case by case. I think I think it's like hard to generalize like an answer for everybody. Like, no, it's way easier to work for the office, or hey, it's, so I think it's like one of those things of like, yeah, just the type of personality and environment, right? What's going on with them? Because if you're like single with nothing around you, you probably, can get some things done because there's not a lot of distractions versus like you and like how I have a 4-year-old. We just turned 5. So, it's, it's chaos.
It can be chaos. Yeah. All right. So we are about to hit our 30-minute time. So before we go, Matt, where
They can go to
people find you?
jobstickers.com. It's like pot stickers, but job stickers. And that is my link tree to everything. So that'll take you to my services, my blog, and all sorts of stuff.
Perfect. I will have that the link into the description. So if you're looking for a job or for a new career, you're trying to figure out direction, Matt, are you nationwide or are you just?
I am nationwide. I'm actually
Wellington?
international. I've got some folks all over the globe. So yeah, anybody who needs help.
International.
I know all the standards all over the place. I mean, I've been through the ringer over the 20 years. So let me know if I can help you, and feel free to drop a mention of this show, and I'd be glad to send over a free ebook as well. Hey, thank you, Mohsen. Hey, let me know if you need anything else, bud. But otherwise, I really appreciate it. This was fun.